There are a lot of reasons why I love living in Florida, and today we're going to talk about the 29 top reasons, in no particular order, that I absolutely love living in Florida. So if you're thinking about moving down here, you absolutely need to watch this video all the way to the end because we do have some bonuses for you. Welcome back to Life on the Emerald Coast, where we talk all things about living here on the Emerald Coast. So if you are thinking of moving here, all of our contact information is on the screen. Keep in mind, we are a real estate company first, so we would love to help you should you decide to move to the great sunny state of Florida. And if you want to know everything there is to know about the Emerald Coast, and you've definitely come to the right channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap that little bell so that you'll be notified every single time we do a new video. All right, let's jump right into the top 29 reasons why I love living here in Florida. Number one, first and foremost, the people are so friendly here. I've lived all over the world. I'm prior military, and before then, my father was military. We moved every 2 years. I've lived in different countries. I've lived in more states than I care to recall right now in this moment. And out of all of the places, this is probably one of the most friendly. Now, I will say Texas is a very close second. When I lived in Texas, everybody there was super friendly as well, but it's just about the same here. People are extremely friendly. They're always willing to help you, whether you're in a bad situation or not. So whether you're just going out to have food at a restaurant, they're super friendly, or there's a hurricane and your neighbors just saw that a tree went into your front yard, they're gonna run over ready to help. So the people are super friendly. I really like that about Florida. And on that same note, Florida has a very diverse culture. So that's number two on my list. Is I love the fact that there's people from all walks of life that come here. It's a very popular transient state, so that means people come from all over. So we get folks from up north, we get folks from California, we get folks from out of the country, people just from Alabama. No, it's just from Alabama, just because they're close by is what I mean. And so you just get all walks of life here, and I really, really enjoy that. That was one of my favorite things in the military too, when I was active duty, is that there was just all walks of life of people. You get to learn so much from other people. I think that's a really, really good thing. Something that I think a lot of people really need to get experience to. And number three on my list are the tourists. Very similar to what I was just talking about a diverse culture for people that live here. You also have a diverse culture of people that visit here. And so you get to hear their stories and their vacation stories and how they got to be down here and why they love, let's say, vacationing in Destin versus Navarre or 30A, and why they don't go down to Miami or why they don't go to these other cities. I love hearing those stories. So that is a big plus for me as well. And number four on my list is, well, you can probably see it all over me. I have a year-around tan. I always have a... Hold on, I've got a filter. All right, does that look more orange? See, year-round tan, right? So a lot of people, not me, but a lot of other people have a year-round tan. And fix that light there, it's driving me crazy. But a lot of people do have a year-round tan. The sun is always shining out here, so if you're an outdoor person, you're probably gonna get that year-round tan. I do not. I'm very pale, as you can see, and I go straight from my color now into just straight red as soon as I'm in the sun too much. I kind of skip that whole tan area. So if you're like me, this might not be a pro to you. This is actually more a pro to other people, so it's not one of mine, but I had to put it on the list. And number five, Florida has no state income tax. So if you are planning on moving down here and your job's gonna pay the exact same because you're working remotely, well, it's gonna be like a pay increase because there's no income tax. Unless, of course, you're already in a state that doesn't have income tax, and it's gonna be the same. But I think that's really, really cool. It is a big benefit of being here. You get to keep more of your money instead of handing it over to the Florida government. Number six on my list is the wildlife. This is why a lot of people come to Florida. The sea turtles and the dolphins and the stingrays. It's so cool. When I first got here, it was a little unnerving at first going to the beach and seeing these little tiny crabs that are about this big. Some of them are bigger, but they're like really tiny. You almost wouldn't notice them unless you've lived. I lived here for years before I noticed, and it was a little unnerving when I first did. I was like, oh, there's a little crab, but he's staying away from me. It's fine. And then you see the sea turtles, and then they're nesting, and you want to make sure you stay away from them and let them get to the water. And then you go out on these dolphin tours, or just tours in general, or just sometimes sitting at a restaurant having lunch. Literally last week, I just went to AJ's on the Bayou. It's a great little place right on the water, eating some oysters, having a cocktail and a Saturday, and I went to go take a phone call, stepped a little bit further away from our seat, which I would have been able to see from there. But I basically went out to the dock area, and it literally just one dolphin just going right by me, just living its best life. And I really love that about Florida. And number 7 on my list is an obvious one. I didn't want to put it first because it's that obvious, right? The beaches. The beaches out here are pristine. They're amazing. The powder, or the sand is powder white. I mean, it literally just crumbles in your hands. I know it's sand and it falls through the cracks and things, but it's just amazing sand. The water is beautiful most of the time if we don't have algae or red tide in. It's beautiful, and that's why they call it the Emerald Coast. It's that beautiful emerald color, and you get these polarized, you just get normal polarized glasses, and you could just see right through. You could generally see through the water anyway. But if you're visiting down here, you move down here, get some polarized glasses. They're not that much more expensive. In fact, you can get them at Walmart for $10, and you can see through this water forever. It seems like it's so beautiful. Absolutely love our beaches. I think they're way better than a lot of other countries and a lot of other places. I have been to Bahamas, Caribbean, St. John, St. Thomas. I mean, I can keep going. I've been to tons and tons of different beaches, and to date, I think this is the best one. Now, I'm a little bit biased, but our beaches are absolutely amazing, particularly in this part of Florida. You're not going to see this sand anywhere else in the country or in the world, really. You're not going to see a lot of the stuff that you see here on our waters. And number 8 on my list are these sunrises and sunsets. They're absolutely stunning out here as it comes up over the water or sets out over the water too. It's so beautiful. I generally only get to see 1 or 2 sunrises per year, at least out on the water. I'll see them at my house because I wake up pretty early. But for the most part, to actually go out to the beach and watch a sunrise, I only do that once or twice a year. I try to do it on New Year's Day, just because it's kind of like a nice, refreshing thing. It is so beautiful. It blows my mind every single year. And then the sunsets I actually see quite often, and they're one of the most beautiful sights. I have lived here 16 years, and every time I have to take pictures of it. Every single time. It's just that beautiful to me. And sometimes it'll just be out at a restaurant. Sometimes I'll actually be out at the beach, but it is really beautiful. And number 9 is Crab Island. Crab Island is a little sandbar. Used to be an island once upon a time, but hurricanes have knocked it down to where it's anywhere from like 2 feet deep to about 6 feet deep. Most of it's about 3 feet deep, give or take, and a bunch of boats pull up. There's little floating bars. There's a bunch of stuff in the cards up above. We'll put the little card so you can click on that if you would like to see that video. Crab Island's absolutely amazing. It's a really good time, whether you want to go out and relax at the water or whether you've got kids. They've got a lot of activities for kids out there, or you just want to go out there, have a few cocktails, make some new friends. These are all really great options at Crab Island. And moving on to number 10 is renting a boat, a jet ski, a kayak, stand-up paddleboard, any of those things just randomly on a whim. Sometimes just really like in the middle of the week on a Tuesday, you and a couple of friends can go out, grab some jet skis for a couple of hours, go have some fun, come back in, and you just hand it back to them and you're like, thanks for the great time. Now, of course, it costs money, but it's an awesome experience, and I really like doing it. And taking a boat out to Crab Island, as I said before, taking a pontoon boat with all your buddies, it's just an absolutely amazing time. And whether you go to Crab Island or you just float around in the bay, or you go down the sound, or just there's so much to do is my point, and it is so much fun. And another thing that is really great out here is golfing. Florida is known for outstanding golf courses. Probably not the best golf courses in the country, okay, but we have them everywhere. Probably in a 50-mile radius, there's got to be 75 golf courses. I'm making that number up, but it's a lot, and it would not surprise me how close that number is. I may even be underestimating, to be honest. There are a lot. There are communities that have 2, 3, 4, 5 of them even. So there's always opportunities to go golfing. I picked it up a couple of years ago. I am absolutely terrible at it, but it is so fun just being out there in nature, just getting really angry every time you hit that ball into the woods, and then you're out trying to find it, and you're out there with a bunch of other people trying to find it. It's just a good time. If you're not a golfer, well, that's all right too, but they are all over the place. So if you do like to golf, you've got a lot of options out here. And the 12th thing on my list that I absolutely love about Florida is that there is no snow. I mean, we've had like snow come down before, like probably twice in 16 years since I've been here that I can recall, but it never stuck, it never stayed. We do sometimes have the roads ice and sleet, and I'll tell you what, we don't know how to drive, and this whole place shuts down, okay? There could be a tropical storm going on, on and people are on the roads. They're driving. Category 1 hurricane, people are driving. Shouldn't be, but they're doing it. You get some rain or some sleet, some snow, anything that ices over the roads, and we lose our minds. We try to go up on these bridges. There are people that'll take trash can lids and slide down them because nobody should be driving around, and the ones that are can't make it up the bridge anyway. Point is, we don't know how to drive in them, but I really like that there is no snow. I've lived in places with snow. I'm not a cold person. I am more of a warm climate sort of person. So to me, that is a really big benefit. And on that same subject, we have sunny weather over 200 days out of the year. Now, Florida is known for its random showers, but that actually works really well to your advantage a lot of times. If you're going out to the beach per se, sometimes these little 5-10 minute showers will scare a lot of people off and they'll run, or you're at the water parks and the same kind of thing. A little bit of rain will come, everybody will leave thinking, oh, well, the day is over. And then you've got the water park to yourself. So it can work to your advantage, but it does, every once in a while, those showers are not the best because they do happen at random times. But we always have this joke here where if you don't like the weather here in Florida, just wait 15 minutes. It'll change. And speaking on top of that as well, the weather in general, I really like the heat. As I mentioned a second ago, I like that it's warm all the time. I don't like that it's cold, and it does get cold here for a couple of months, and I don't like that portion, but hey, what can you do? You gotta take the good with the bad. I love the warmer climate. For a lot of people, it might be too hot or too humid. I actually really enjoy it. And number 15 on my list goes hand in hand with all of this. In fact, I probably should have just bundled this all up in one, but hey, we're already halfway through this. I don't like walking my dog when it's cold, so that is a huge benefit to me. Most of the time I get to walk her and I'm out there in shorts and a t-shirt, and I absolutely love that. And speaking of getting in shorts and a t-shirt, that is my general attire, and flippy floppies. I wear flip-flops probably 300 days out of the year, maybe like 250, okay? Let's be realistic. But I like my flip-flops. We moved here. I realized that was kind of the culture, and I really like that the overall casual attire is kind of everywhere, which works particularly well for me in my industry, being that I am a real estate agent. A lot of people think of us as wearing suits all the time and all this, and I didn't like it. I did that when I first started my career. I was wearing suits all the time. I'm looking around wondering where everybody else's suits are, and I finally just moved on, and I went, you know what? I need to be comfortable, and this is what's comfortable for me, and that's more important than me looking all snazzy and fancy for my clients whenever they come in town. And it kind of gives them a nice little intro into what Florida life is really like. Number 17 on my list are pool days. Whenever you don't want to pack up all that stuff to go to the beach, it is kind of a little bit of a chore. It's not a lot, but you got to throw some drinks in a cooler. You got to grab your Tommy Bahama chair, whatever you're using, your umbrella, or if you've got one of those stands or some sort of shade, at least for, my complexion. It is a little bit of work. Some people can go out there with just like a little 6-pack, a couple of waters in there. They just go out there with their beach chair and they're good to go. For me, it's a whole endeavor. I gotta put on sunscreen a lot, like really lather it on, keep it with me, make sure I've got plenty for the entire trip, make sure I have shade because I will bake. I've got to, throw some drinks in a cooler so I don't get dehydrated. And it's kind of an event. With a pool, it's like I'm dragging that from my fridge right outside. I still have to lather up and all that, but it's a lot easier. Now, reason number 18 why I love living here in Florida is kind of a weird one, but I do notice that it's very accurate, is that when my friends come and visit from other states, they tend to get a little bit jealous. I can't believe you live here. I'd be out at the beach every single day. No, you won't. When you move here, you're not out at the beach every single day. You got a life, you got a job, you got to do things. Well, I mean, unless you're like retired or you don't have to do anything. And I guess there are the few exceptions that do go out to the beach every day, but that's generally the response that we get. I can't believe you're not out here every day. Why don't you always want to go to the beach? You got so much stuff to do. The food's so good. They're always so jealous. I don't know why they don't just move down here, but to each their own. And number 19 on my list is the diverse personality of the communities around the area. I absolutely love this. I hear this a lot in big cities, that there are certain parts of town that have different communities and different styles, different feels. We have the exact same thing here. Whether you're living in Navarre, where there's a lot of single family residences, a lot of families, you're out at 30A, where there's a lot of vacationers and just different personalities in general. Each little beach area, each everything is so completely different, particularly at 30A. Whenever you're driving down around scenic 30A, you will see the entire communities change in front of you. Each one is like its own living personality, its own thing. And I really like that because you've got something for every person here. Whether you are the huge extrovert that just wants to meet lots of people and you want to be right in the heart of Destin and you just want to be engulfed in all the action, you've got that option. You want it a little bit more laid back, you've got Navarre and Fort Walton to kind of chill out a little bit, get the beach a little bit more to yourself. And then you go all the way into 30A where there's a mixture of all of it. We have one where all the buildings are watercolor colors. It's actually called watercolor, strangely enough. We have Alice Beach, which is just absolutely gorgeous with these huge white spires and everything is painted white and black. It has to be this exact shade of color. There's so many ordinances and cool things and it's just so beautiful. And there's 15 more that I'm not even mentioning. It's just absolutely amazing how many different personalities there are. And I just absolutely love that because, like I said, I've been here 16 years and I have not figured out everything. And I travel, I sell the whole area, and there's always something new coming up. Something new is surprising me all the time. I have never gotten bored here. And that's been one of my biggest complaints about living in other areas before is, you know, like I said before, I moved every 2 years as a kid and then I was active duty and I moved a bunch then. Like, I don't get bored here and I absolutely love that. And number 20 on my list, and this is one that just recently made my list. I probably made it about 12 years without having one of these, and that's a Publix sandwich, affectionately known here as Pub Sub. So I love Pub Subs, they're great. You go in there, it's kind of like, almost like a Subway inside of Publix. It's a shopping center here. They're really good sandwiches. I particularly love to take them out to the beach or take them out on a boating trip or canoeing, really any outdoor activity. They're big, they're thick, they're full, they're delicious. They keep very well, and so they're great snacks to take with you. And speaking of food, number 21 on my list is all of the seafood here. I was not a seafood fan when I moved here. I have not been a seafood fan until a couple of years ago. It wasn't until after I was basically a realtor for a while, and then I started slowly kind of expanding my horizons in the different kind of foods that I have this, I just really like seafood now, way more than I did before. So you'll get an appreciation for it if you don't like it now. I'm telling you, you try it a few times, you try a few different ways. When you're getting it fresh off the boats, you're watching the boats come in from the Gulf of Mexico and bringing the fish in. In fact, if you go out to harbor docks or any of these, there's a bunch of different docks in Destin in general, you'll watch them carrying off tons of fish into the restaurants, and they're cooking that fish right there. It's as fresh as it can get without going out there cooking it or going out there catching it yourself and cooking it on the spot. And it's not just seafood either. We have a huge variety of different kinds of foods. A lot of people bring their businesses down here. They want to, you know, live in great sunny areas and have the sun and fun and, you know, the allure of Florida in general. So they bring their businesses down here. We've got great food in almost every category. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still trying to search for the perfect Mexican food out here. I was a little bit spoiled. My folks retired out in New Mexico, and there's some of the best Mexican food out there, and we don't quite have that style of Mexican food here. We do have really good Mexican food, but it's not the same. So that's about the only thing I feel like it's lacking. But other than that, in every other category you can think of, I mean, there's like food choices that you normally wouldn't have, or at least that I've not seen in a lot of other towns and cities. Number 23 for me is discounts. So I don't take advantage of these all the time. If they ask me, I generally do, but I think it's really cool. A lot of our restaurant owners, small business owners in general, whether it's charters and dolphin cruises or, like I said, restaurants, really anything in the area, they want to promote the locals even while the tourists are here. And a lot of the locals don't like to go out whenever the tourists are here because the lines are longer, the service isn't always as good. So they give you typically a 10% discount at most of these places for being a local or holding a Florida resident card. Now, I've also heard that Disney has a 3-day pass special just for Florida residents as well. I've not confirmed that, but I've heard that before in the past, so that's another cool little bonus. Number 24, one of my favorite things to do, we've done a video on this already, is blackwater tubing or kayaking or stand-up paddleboarding or whatever you want to do on Blackwater River. Just a few miles north of where I'm at right now, probably about 10 miles, 20 miles, something like that. There is a place called Blackwater River State Forest, and one of the things that they do there, one of the attractions, is you can take a tube and go floating down the river. It's about a 2.5 to 3.5 hour endeavor, depending on how many stops you take, because there's a lot of river embankments you can hang out at and just sort of play around in the water. But for the most part, if you just tube, it's about 2.5 to 3 hours if you don't stop. Very, very fun. It's a good time. You can pay for another tube to put your cooler in, or you can bring one if you've got one of those. That's what we generally bring. Put your drinks and your snacks in there, and it's a good time. You tie off to to each other. It's fun. You're dodging, falling down trees and stuff, and you're just all floating together, having a really good time. And speaking of outdoor activities, another really fun thing I used to like doing, I don't have a bike anymore, but was mountain biking, or Florida hill biking, I guess we should call it, because it's not really mountains out here. But there are a lot of trails here in the area that you'd be really surprised are even out here, because Florida is mainly flat, but the scenery is really beautiful out here, and I really liked it when I was doing it. Now, again, I haven't done it in some time, but a really fun activity if you're looking to do something a little away from the water. And number 26 on my list, again, none of these are in any particular order, but the Blue Angels out at Pensacola. They fly out here. You'll see them all the time, particularly if you're out at the Navarre Beach. You may not see them as much out in Destin or any of the other beaches, 30A, Panama City, things like that. But if you go out Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Pensacola Beach, you'll see the Blue Angels flying all the time. They are a kind of like a stunt airplane style of entertainment flown by the military out here. They fly very close to each other. In fact, sometimes a couple of inches, sometimes upside down, sometimes stacked. It's absolutely amazing. I've liked them since I was a kid. There were a couple of different of these style air shows, and the Blue Angels were always really high on my list. So really cool to watch when you're out there, particularly when it's a free show and you're just sitting out at the beach and all of a sudden you have these fighters just flying right by. One's upside down, you know, they peel off. It's absolutely amazing to watch. And very similar to that, the next one on my list is the other aircraft that fly by. I probably, again, could have merged these, but again, we're kind of nearing the end, so we're just going to keep rolling with it. You've got the CV-22s, which are these great helicopter-style airplanes, so they're tilt-rotor, right? So the actual engines kind of move. You may have seen them on movies like Transformers. They're relatively new in the last, well, shoot, almost decade and a half now, I think, if my memory serves me right. Anyway, they're really cool. We used to refuel them in flight when I was active duty. You'll have the C-130s flying low level as well, about 300 feet right over the water, particularly on Fridays. We used to, when we did them, when I was active, we used to call them Friday morale flights, because you get to do a beach run, ramp and door open. I used to dangle my feet right out. It was awesome. Of course, you're, strapped into everything, but it's really cool to watch those now. I know I've got prior experience with the military, so for me, it's really cool to watch those helicopters come by too. So I know that I've got a little bit of a bias there, but I really enjoy watching them, and most people do too. You'll always see videos of them going by, so it's a pretty cool experience. And getting down a little bit toward the bottom of the list is our water parks. So one, namely in our area, is Big Kahuna. Absolutely amazing. There's so much stuff to do. They've got so many different water slides and different pools and wave pools and stuff for the kids and places to grab drinks and food. And it's just a really good time to take the family. If you've got a family, it's a good time to take a couple of friends if you've got some friends. If you go alone, it might be fun too. I don't know, but it's a pretty good time. Our water parks out here in Florida are pretty fun. And I kept this one last on my main list because I think this one is one of my favorite ones that I don't get to do that often, but it's staycations. So we're very fortunate to get to live in a place where most people vacation, but we don't always get to enjoy what they're enjoying. So every once in a while, about once a year, I try to go out and rent something, Airbnb, a condo, something a little bit further away, maybe about 30, 45 minutes, and basically play tourist in my own town. Such a good time. You get to completely kind of engulf in the culture of the other tourists, and you get to go out to the beach and grab drinks or go to the bars or go to the whatever you want to do. You get to have your own little staycation. You're just a few minutes away from the house, so if something happens, you can always dart right back, and it makes for a pretty good vacation for fairly inexpensive. Now, before you go, we got a couple of bonuses that are not on my list per se of top things to do, but they're very popular here. I've got 3 of them, okay, so bear with me. Number 1, it's probably pretty obvious, but fishing. Fishing culture is so big out here. Destin is dubbed the luckiest fishing village for a reason. There are lots of opportunities to fish. There are tons of different things. You got red snapper, well, I'm not even going to try to list it because I'm going to mess this up. I do not fish. I've never gone fishing. I know I should. People tell me all the time, oh, come out on my boat. And then I'm like, I don't really like fishing. And they're like, well, you can just sit there and drink beer. And I'm like, well, I can do that here or just not, just go to the beach. So for me, it's not a big thing, but it is a really big thing to a lot of people. You can fish off piers, you can fish off the bridges out here. You see people doing that in their days off. They're just sitting there, just reeling them in with a cooler of, whatever they're catching for the day. fishing is a very, very big thing out here. Another thing that's fairly big out here is scuba diving. In fact, we just put out a whole bunch of artificial reefs here in our area just so that people can go down there and, well, that's not the only reason, it's for the wildlife technically, but it's very good for people to go down there and scuba dive. There's some shipwrecks you could see and there's a lot of great stuff. I don't do that personally. I've got a little bit of a thing with being underwater. I don't really like it. I'm going to do it eventually. It's on my bucket list, but I have not done it as of yet. I've heard it's an absolutely amazing time. I've seen lots of videos. I've seen friends that have done it and they've shown me their personal videos and not just the professionally shot ones, and it looks like a really good time. There's tons of spots out here, so if you like scuba diving, this is a huge spot for it. And last but not least, this is a great place to retire, hence why so many people come out here to retire. Just all in all, there's so many benefits of the retire, the cheaper living for the most part. Obviously, there's cheaper places in the country. There's also a lot more expensive places as well. You've got great taxes, great rates, just a lot of different things that make it really good to retire, and plus you've got all the stuff to do. So why not retire in a place where you can actually enjoy the rest of your, the rest of your retirement, or, do it for a little bit. And if you don't like it, you can always move back or kind of go back and forth. But at the end of the day, it's a great place to retire. So if you guys are thinking of moving down here, keep in mind, we're a real estate company first. We'd love to help. All my information is on the screen. And as I'm always saying, please comment down below. If you've visited here before, if you like it here, I'd love to hear your experience. We love chatting with you guys. It's actually one of my favorite things to do. I used it to kind of procrastinate a little bit. So, help me out. Comment down below. We'd love to chat. See ya.